Hi, this is Ash and Jack here from Fitness Lab, and what I'm going to talk to you about today is training your obliques. They're an incredibly useful muscle group to incorporate into your training. One, it's going to help stabilize the spine, it's going to help with rotation, but also anti-rotation, which are a few of the movement patterns I'm going to take you through today and how to train those. And they're a great addition to your core training that not many people know about. The very basic level we can start at is the very simple and humble side plank. Now, a lot of people will jump straight into the full side plank, which I just asked Ash to quickly demonstrate, where you can be on your elbow or straight arm and end up in this position here. Now, this is a great exercise. It's a great exercise for your obliques, but there are levels that we can hit beforehand before we progress to this one. The reason for that, you can relax there, Ash, is that people can jump straight into that position too quickly and not build upon the layers that you can have to make sure you're targeting the oblique and not your QL, which is a common issue and problem that people can have when training their obliques, specifically in the side plank. So where we like people to start is in a very simple, modified side plank position. So if I ask Ash to go on his elbow, and then we're going to have this top leg come forward as he had it, but then this bottom leg is going to bend at 90 degrees, and all we're going to do is raise, keeping this knee down, the hips off the floor, so we're in this position here. And if you lift those hips a little bit higher for me, there. So what we've done is just add another base of support with this bottom knee, so that you can really concentrate and build up the steps in this position before we progress. From here, where you can progress is then just taking this leg straight. Exactly. And then keeping that foot, if you keep that foot forwards, yeah, that's perfect. It just helps keep our hip rotated slightly so we don't rotate back too much. And then from here, we can then progress again. You can then go into a straight arm position. So instead of the forearm being on the ground, we're in an even higher position. Again, this is going to ask more of your shoulder stability. However, we're still getting a lot of oblique work here. Now, you can rest there, Ash. This position, as you can see, is a static position. We're training the muscles without them changing length. Isometrically, if you want to use the fancy term, but they're just basically not getting longer and shorter, which is great. It's going to create a lot of stability and a lot of strength. But muscles don't just work in one length. They like to get longer, they like to get shorter. So we want to train all aspects of that. So a simple way we can then progress is to add a rotation. We want to train the obliques both statically and dynamically. The side plank is great because then we can kind of start again with that first level of the normal side plank, but now add a rotation. So the setup is the same. We've got one leg straight, base of support here with the knee bent and in the elbow. Now, to get that rotation in, Ash is going to reach his arm underneath his body to get that dynamic rotation through the obliques, pulling the ribs down, and then we open out. We rotate under, and then we open out. So we've gone from that static position to now the muscle changing length. Other than our own body weight, there's no direct external load on that, which is fine because we've got loads of steps to go through here in the same way we did for the side plank. So we can go through the same progressions from here, just going straight to a full straight leg side plank rotation. Movement is the same. Setup is the same with the feet. Elbow setup is the same, making sure it's directly under the shoulder. And then from here, we can go to a straight arm side plank rotation. Again, same setup. And you can adjust the feet position if you need to. Ash is quite narrow here, but if you need to make that base of support wider, just to give yourself a bit more stability to concentrate on that rotation, you absolutely can, there's no problem. If we want to progress this position, you can then add a simple light dumbbell. This just adds a little bit of external load. It's going to ask a little bit more of your shoulder, especially on the bottom and the top, but we're now loading the muscles of this rotation a little bit more. Perfect. You can rest there, Ash. Now, from here, we can do lots of variations once you've kind of completed and finished with the side plank variations. As I mentioned before, with the normal side plank, that's a very static exercise. The muscle isn't changing length, which, as I mentioned, is good. We want to train the muscles in both ways, but another way we can do that is through a great anti-rotation exercise known as the pull-off press. As the name suggests, if I ask Ash to hold this dumbbell, it's all about anti-rotation, so avoiding being rotated. You can set this up with a band or a cable. We're using a cable today, and Ash is going to pull the cable in front of him, so in the middle of his chest. He's going to set his feet up to be just outside hip width in that athletic position, knees slightly bent. Now, where all the load and tension is pulling him is that way. Ash's job now is to push the cable out in front of him, avoiding being rotated and pulled that way. So obviously you have to adjust the weight that you're comfortable with, where it provides enough of a challenge that you feel the work happening, but not so much that you're constantly being pulled that way and end up, when you push, pushing in different directions. It should be a dead straight line from chest out. So this is a great anti-rotation exercise that you can keep progressing by adding load and changing with different tension types. So you could just do a band. You can then add a weight plate through the band, so when you push out, it creates a little bit of instability because the plate bangs around on the band in order for you to control and complete that movement. From here, we then can progress it with the same setup, but now adding that dynamic element with a full cable torso rotation. So Ash is going to adopt the same setup he just had, but we're now going to have our arms straight out in front of us to start, and we're going to get that rotation element by facing our shoulders towards where the weight comes from, keeping our hips as stable as possible, rotating in a straight line away from that position, getting our shoulders to face the opposite direction. So you can see how this is now a progression from that side plank rotation to a much more dynamic movement. Again, you can do this with bands, you can do this with the cable, the variations, there are a lot, they're kind of endless in this sense. You can keep progressing the weight, you can add more reps, you can slow the movement down and add more time under tension. There are loads of metrics you can change to increase the movement. But as I've mentioned a couple of times, you want to train your obliques and all your muscles to be able to handle load statically, so where they don't change length, but then also dynamically. And this is just a few ways you can add oblique training into your sessions.